Pioneer brand canola with Optimum Gly, the highest yielding glyphosate-tolerant trait on the market. What's next in canola happens here.
Good day, and welcome to Wheat Pete's Word here on Real Agriculture for Wednesday, October the 30th. On this episode of the Word, safety. Yeah, Wheat Pete messed up. Safety. Then we're talking yields. We're going to talk plot results, dust. After that, agronomy, wheat, soil conservation, and also soil pH, if I can get through all that before I yet again run out of time. Let's go! So just before I get into safety, a couple of quick things. Paul sending me a message saying, Pete, you always run out of time. So why not just do the Word after supper? Sit in your lazy boy, have a glass of water, and then you can talk to us for an hour and a half. It'll just be awesome. Paul, are you insane? An hour of Wheat Pete? I don't think anybody could tolerate that. And as well, Jean-Marc reaching out saying, okay, where else do I get the Word? Because, man, the YouTube ads are just getting to be too much to take. Well, they do that, Paul, Jean-Marc, so that you will actually buy the subscription, but you can always get the Word from the RealAg website. We are fortunate enough now that the Word actually has a sponsor, so you'll have to listen to that little clip at the start, because yes, even Real Agriculture needs a few dollars to support Wheat Pete's Word, but that would be the only advertisement you have to listen to as well. Every streaming service, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever, you can get Wheat Pete's Word on as many different platforms as we can possibly put it on. All right, I'm going to move on, talk about safety. So first up, again, Paul said, Pete, I was driving tractor trailer down number 7 in your part of the world, Pete, and it was raining. And here on the road is a big John Deere tractor pulling 2 wagons in the rain with slippery roads. No lights on the tractor, no lights on the wagon. Come on, people, how many times do we have to talk about this? Unsafe, could kill somebody. My gosh, don't do it. Meanwhile, here's Wheat Pete preaching yet again about safety, and Pete messed up. So I parked the wagons at my cornfield along along a fairly busy paved road, and they sat there for 3 days between when I last combined corn and when I got the chance to go back and combine corn on Saturday. And Saturday, it was lake effect showers. It was a catchy morning. About 11:30, it was dry enough to roll. So Pete jumps in the combine and says, "Let's get her done, boys. We need to finish corn today." And loads 2 wagons, calls for the tractor. Tractor hooks up to the front wagon. Everything, seemed fine. Lights flashing, all good. Pete is big on lights. Off goes the tractor. And 10 minutes later, Pete gets a call that says, Pete, I got a problem. The back wagon just passed me and went in the ditch and took out a hydro pole. And I'm going, what? How can that be? Well, what happened, because we had another set of wagons sitting in the same field, and we could tell when we got to them, some enterprising, I don't know what the right word is, frustrating individual stole the draw bolts out of our wagons sitting along the side of the road over that 3-day period. Of course, the draw bolt for the front wagon was in the tractor. They didn't get that one, but they got all the other draw bolts. We pulled that back wagon fully loaded out of the field and down the road at least 1 kilometer on the safety chain before something let go. So we did have great safety chain. Safety chain didn't break, but it's Pete's fault. Pete did not do a circle check. So whatever you do, if you leave anything parked along the side of the road, man, before you drive out on the road, do the circle check and check the pins are still in those wagons, because that was a new one to me. I've left them sitting there before, but bad on me for not doing that circle check. Full stop. Okay, enough on that. Let's get going. Second poorest winter wheat ratings in the U.S. since 1986. So a bit of a blip in the wheat market. I don't know if it's the right time to market or not, but it is. There was a bit of a blip. We've had some opportunity to almost get $7 wheat down the pipe at the elevator for this 2025 winter wheat crop. By the way, I'm quite convinced we have a massive winter wheat crop in the ground this year. Chris tweeting out that he planted soybeans, a 2.6, I believe, maturity, 2.6 or 2.8 maturity at Glencoe. Like, that's full season, maybe plus a bit, on the 17th of June. And he planted the wheat on October the 24th. So there's no question, there is a big winter wheat crop in the ground. Doesn't mean it'll make it through. I mean, we always have winter. But yep, a little bit of a blip in the wheat markets. And it's because globally, and in fact, in North America, Ontario is really quite lucky, because for the most part, we have enough moisture to get the wheat out of the ground. Not everywhere. Did a nice little video on the Yen program with Joanna Fallings-Byrne-Tobin last Thursday. It'll be posted on Real Agriculture here shortly. But Joanna lives in the Ayr area and farms there with her brothers and her dad. And their farm, they have some sandy knolls. It's quite sandy, quite dry. They have wheat that is in stasis in the ground, even here in Ontario. Got enough moisture to start. It's just sitting there, and they seem to miss every rain. Hopefully they got the rain yesterday. But yes, across North America, for the most part, it is dry, dry, dry. So the winter wheat ratings, quite poor. Marketing opportunity, who would know? I've sort of given up on trying to predict. That's not my game. All right, I want to continue with yields because, yes, for the most part, the yields are amazing, but they are also incredibly variable, and I just want to hit on that briefly. Warren, in Eastern Ontario, where I thought it was just like, I don't know, it's the Mecca of Ontario. Everything always goes right. Warren says, no, Pete. My soybeans yielded between 38 and 70 bushels per acre. 70 is awesome. I'm going to average really good somewhere in the 60s, but the 38? And I said, well, Warren, drop that farm. Clearly, drop that farm. It's a low-producing farm. You don't need that. Drop that farm. And Warren's response was, how about I drop the guy who said it was fit to plant in the spring? And that is a really interesting comment. I mean, he's joking, of course, but whenever we make a mistake on a year like 2024, man, it can really come back to bite us. Ben, his corn yielding between 150 bushel per acre average to 260 bushels per acre. The areas that are 150, the fields that are 150, got tons of rain, and we know that throughout the London region, through Brantford, that area, there's some spots that just dumped on, Glencoe in particular, dumped on. Too much rain and tar spot, and we end up with 150 bushel corn versus 260. Edible beans, black beans at Mitchell, 3,000 pounds per acre. In London Township, same grower, same variety, just about everything done the same, 1,200 pounds per acre, and that's because London Township got pounded with rain. Mitchell did not. It's just the way that works. On double crop soybeans, here's a really quick note I want to talk about because I think it's amazingly interesting. Double crop soybeans after winter wheat or winter barley, planted on the 5th of July, over 40 bushels per acre. That's sweet. Planted on the 11th of July, 33 bushels per acre. Planted on the 14th of July, 26 bushels per acre. So that is almost 2 bushels. It's 1.5 bushels per acre per day that you lose in soybean yield for delaying planting in that July time frame. I mean, planting date is always important, but when you get into double crop soybeans, boy, it is absolutely critical. And before we move on, I just want to talk about plot data, because we talked about tar spot, and last week I said, up to 70 or 80 bushels per acre. Adam sent me just an awesome plot. Now, this is an awesome plot because it had 2 replications. Lots of plot data doesn't have 2 replications. 2 replications, untreated, sprayed with Miravis Neo, and sprayed with Veltima DLX. So we actually got all the potentials there. We got 2 different products. Unsprayed, 223 bushel per acre average across the 2 reps. And by the way, Adam is not in a heavy tar spot area, but it's in an area where tar spot is definitely coming in. So 223 bushels per acre sprayed with Miravis, 249 bushels per acre. So that's quite a step up, almost 30 bushels. Sprayed with Veltima, who Albert Tenuta, Darcy Telenko have all said is probably the best product. Veltima, you have to use the DLX though to get that better control. 263 bushels per acre. So huge. I mean, the Miravis made a huge difference, but boy, the difference between products in their yield potential on tar spot in particular really is making a difference. And going forward, we're going to have to look at that. Nick saying, hey, Peter, look at the plot data. Bear sent some plot data out, and Adam Pfeffer, my great friend Adam Pfeffer, had his plot in there. And Nick, I love your quote, Nick. Yeah. So Adam, who is always 2 days away from a drought, his plot averaged 84 bushels per acre of soybeans. Man, Adam, if you could be 2 days away from a drought and grow 84 bushel soybeans, good for you. And that, by the way, those are excellent soybeans, no doubt about that. All right, I want to move on and just talk quickly about tar spot, because 2 things on tar spot. First up, I cannot tell you how many pictures I have seen of aerial application where the applicator, the operator of the helicopter or the whatever aerial unit was doing it, did not manage to do a good job. There was something about coverage that happened. Chris showed me a picture of her field on Thursday night, and oh my gosh, it just green where they got the fungicide applied, brown strip where they missed. Green strip where they got it applied, brown strip where they missed. So it has to be something with the coverage. It's not that aerial applicators can't do a good job, but oh my gosh, tar spot tells you because of the massive amount of damage that tar spot does. If you don't control tar spot in a heavy tar spot pressure on a tar spot year, the corn simply dies prematurely. It goes black. You can see it right to the line. And that's what we're seeing with aerial applications. So yes, you save the tramp damage, but man, we have to get better with coverage with aerial application, or we're all going to go back to ground application. The difference is just stark. On that note, Barry saying, hey Peter, what about tar spot dust? Man, we combined a field of a neighbor's, custom combined. We tried to encourage them to control the tar spot. They did not, except for they did allow us to do 1 strip. With our sprayer, we went in and did 1 strip up the field with a fungicide product. That strip yielded 40 bushels per acre better. But that wasn't Barry's concern. He says, Peter, what about the dust? Oh my gosh, we had to combine on a beautiful, dry, sunny day with our windshield wiper on to get the dust off the windshield so we could see where we were going. We had to sync the buggy tractor screen to the combine because there was so much dust. The buggy driver could not see where the combine was. Now that's tremendous dust, Barry. That's more than I think we normally see. But Barry's concern is, like, what does that dust do from a human standpoint? Yeah, 40 bushels per acre is one thing. But in the combine, we were wearing masks. Like, it's just so hard. You get out, you touch anything on the combine, your hands are all black. Is that a human health concern? And the answer, fortunately, with tar spot is that there are no toxins in the dust. But man, dust in agriculture is a massive concern. And Albert Tenuta said that, because I asked him about this question, he said, Peter, to be real, tar spot killed the plant. So will tar spot create dust? Yes, but those leaves are now dead. And so if there's some humidity, alternaria can come in. It's a secondary saprophyte. We talk about it all the time. It's what turns wheat heads black if they're left out in the field too long. Doesn't cause any yield loss, but it can create dust. It's the alternaria that makes the wheat combines black. And Albert wonders if it was alternaria that came in on the dead corn. And that's why, Barry, you saw so much dust. Alternaria dust also is not toxic, but we do get chronic bronchitis. Lots of farmers get farmer's lung from just breathing in too much dust over the length of their career. And when you're in a dust cloud like that, whether it's at the elevator, the combine, the neighbor beside that field, boy, that dust is absolutely a concern. Try to make sure you don't breathe it in. Wear the dust mask. Do whatever you can. But toxins, no. Health concern, absolutely. All right, I need to move on. I want to talk about wheat because we are getting tons of questions about, Pete, my wheat, my early planted wheat, it looks so gorgeous. And now, guess what? It's got all these yellow patches in it. It just looks like it just doesn't look good. Is it sulfur deficiency? Is it nitrogen deficiency? Is it disease? Oh, gosh. Okay, so back up 2 steps. First, we are seeing some disease in the winter wheat crop. By the way, if you think winter wheat looks tough, go look at some winter barley fields because typically they look much worse. But remember that it's fall, and remember when winter cereal crops make yield. So yes, as I'm walking winter wheat fields, the advanced winter wheat does start to look a little bit tough in some areas, although a little bit of rain, a little bit cooler temperatures are helping. But we have found powdery mildew in the winter wheat crop now. We have found leaf rust in the winter wheat crop now. And lots of growers are saying, oh, we got to spray a fungicide in the fall. Don't do it. Shane and I think back in 2008 or 2012, one of those really warm falls, we had wheat that got up to 10 tillers per plant. It was much too thick. It was before we started talking about low seeding rates when you plant early, so it was planted at a high seeding rate. In fact, we had trials, and oh my gosh, that wheat just was yellow from one end of the field to the other. We went in, we sprayed fungicides in the fall, and we gained absolutely zero. And you kind of step back and say, well, why is that? Think about this. First off, it's only the early planted winter wheat or winter barley that are showing the yellow symptoms. The late planted crop looks green and gorgeous as it emerges. So it's environmental, it's not the disease. None of the disease levels are high enough to be causing the yellowing. It's wind whipping. It's perhaps this dry weather and the crop isn't pulling enough nutrients out of the ground. It's not sulfur because we are seeing it on fields with so much manure that their sulfur levels are through the yin-yang. So it's just an environmental response. Because it's in the fall, it's a bit dry, struggling to pull moisture. That's why with the rain it's getting better. And it's not setting yield right now, unless it's making tillers. By the time it gets big enough to actually start showing the environmental stress, it already has 1, 2, 3, 4 tillers. If we get 3 tillers on every plant, in the spring it's going to drop a tiller anyway. So we're not setting head size. All we need to do is make enough tillers in the fall. It's also why weed pressure in the fall does not hurt winter wheat. The bottom line is, yes, it might look a little bit iffy, but it's absolutely fine. Get over it. Drive on. Andy's saying, hey, Peter, just want you to know, fall weed control this year in my winter wheat crop, much better than last year. And so Andy used Infinity FX. He added a liter of AMS. I'm not sure, Andy, it's the AMS. But I do know that Infinity FX likes AMS with it, so I think that's a good thing. But it's also maybe a bit warmer. So a couple of notes there. Don't be afraid to add the AMS to that Infinity. That does make a difference, and better fall weed control. Claire saying, Pete, corn to corn. We're harvested our corn. The stover was harvested for bedding. Going to go to corn next year. What about a cover crop? Would you do cereal rye? Would you do winter wheat? Would you do nothing? Oh gosh, first off, Claire, corn to corn. Are you kidding me? The first thing I would do is not plant corn again. But I know you're a livestock farmer and you need the corn. Okay. I would not use cereal rye. Even though it's the one that will grow the best, rye has too much allelopathic effect on the corn. Would I do wheat? Yeah, I think I'd give wheat a shot because you harvested the stover, you need some ground cover, it's warm, get the wheat done. It would either be wheat or nothing, and I don't know. On a cold fall, I would say don't bother, you're out of time. On a fall like 2024, I would give wheat a try. Jordan, by the way, on reshaped clay, saying, what cover crop do I grow before corn next year? Dr. Dave tweeting back, the cover crop to grow in this situation is winter wheat. And if the winter wheat looks good, Jordan, next spring, leave it. Ah, Dave, you are so smart. Because yes, reshaped heavy clay. No structure because you beat the daylights out of that. You plant winter wheat. There's nothing better, well, maybe oats, but as a winter cereal in Ontario, winter wheat is so good to make structure. If you plant corn in that next year, man, with no structure, you're really struggling. If the winter wheat makes it, let the winter wheat crop rehabilitate that soil that you've reshaped and make it back into a better farm. If the wheat looks poor, then take it out, plant your corn, carry on from there. Oh my gosh, look at the time. I am out of time and I still haven't talked about soil conservation or about soil pH. I will talk about that next week. By the way, on the soil conservation front, yes, it's a glorious fall. It's a great fall to do some tillage. But don't forget about erosion, about tillage erosion, water erosion, wind erosion. We'll talk about that next week. But bottom line, don't go to the field because you can. Go to the field because you need to, and leave as much residue cover as you can because it absolutely matters. And I will have more details on that next week because there's a lot more there to talk about. And with that, I am way out of time. That's it. That's all. On behalf of the team here at Real Agriculture, this is Wheat Pete with the word for Wednesday, October the 30th. Hey, keep the feedback coming. I love it. And Jean-Marc, Paul, keep listening to the word. Thank you very much. See you next week.